Welcome, dear listener. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome to this quiet corner where forgotten history lingers. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight and what time is it there? Feel free to leave a comment. It's always a comfort to see where our fellow night wanderers gather. And if you enjoy these soft, shadowed journeys through time, consider subscribing so you'll never miss the next one. Now, let's begin. The desert lies silent beneath a heavy sky. Wind stirs the sands in slow, sweeping currents, brushing against ancient stones worn smooth by centuries. And beneath that endless sea of shifting grains, darkness waits, a tomb, a place of stillness and shadow, sealed long ago by trembling hands, its entrance once marked with words of warning and dread. Let none disturb the sleep of the king. Death shall find the one who enters. And yet, across the ages, men could not resist. It is said that the Pharaohs in death commanded more power than many kings held in life. Their tombs, vast, intricate, filled with treasures of unimaginable worth, drew the eyes of thieves, explorers, scholars, and fools. Tonight we step quietly among them. Picture a narrow stone corridor descending into the earth. The walls close around you, painted once in vivid color, now faded beneath layers of dust and salt. Your footsteps echo in the hollow silence. Torchlight flickers, bending shadows along the stone, revealing strange symbols. Serpents coiled among stars, eyes watching from the dark. The air grows colder, thin, heavy with the scent of dried resins and something older still. You pass faded warnings, curses etched by forgotten scribes, not meant for your eyes, but for your bones. Those who first breached these tombs, bold men with greed in their hearts, found more than gold. They found death in the air itself. Traps left behind, blades hidden in stone, sand waiting to pour like water, locking corridors in eternal night. For merchants, it was said that the richest tombs could yield fortunes enough to buy a kingdom. But many merchants never left these halls. Their bones lie still beneath layers of drifted sand, their names lost to the silent stone. And deeper still, chambers of painted gods, figures with jackal heads, falcon wings, eyes of lapis lazuli staring from the walls. The Pharaoh's promise, to live forever, untouched by the ravages of time. But beneath the wrappings of kings, beneath the gold and alabaster, another presence lingered. Curses whispered through the years, woven into the very fabric of the tomb, invisible but deadly. A scholar once brushed aside ancient cloth seeking knowledge. By dawn, fever burned through his veins. His breath came shallow and his words dissolved into delirium. Within days, he was gone, his name added to the long, grim list of those claimed by the tomb. And still they came. Soldiers, scribes, explorers, each believing they would escape the fate of those before them. Each carrying with them a single spark of arrogance, enough to light the fire of doom. Now, imagine the heart of the tomb, a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. Stone pillars stand like silent sentinels, draped in ancient cloth, stained with the passing of centuries. At the center, the sarcophagus, massive, cold, etched with the language of the dead. A voice within the stone seems to whisper, "Turn back," but none do. And as greedy fingers brush sacred objects, as ancient seals are broken, a subtle shift begins. Dust stirs, shadows lengthen, breath falters, and far above, beyond the reach of light or life, the desert wind sighs softly through the cracks of the earth. And deep within the stone, a voice waited still. The tomb breathes. It is not life that stirs here, not in any way the living would know, but something older than breath. older than stone. A cold pulse moves through the dark corridors, beneath slabs worn smooth by the passage of unseen feet. You descend, slowly. The air thickens, each step a silent conversation with the past. Above, the desert still shifts and sighs, but here the world has forgotten sunlight. Fingers trail across damp stone, tracing symbols whose meanings even scholars no longer grasp. A scarab frozen mid-crawl, an outstretched hand, a vulture's wing carved with trembling reverence. The warnings are everywhere, layered in pigment, chiseled deep into walls meant to outlast kingdoms. Let no man wake the king. The gates of the underworld are sealed with blood, and yet the seals were broken long ago. For soldiers it began with orders, a tomb uncovered, the sands stripped away by storms and time, a general seeking glory, a governor hoping for wealth, men with blades drawn, forced down into the dark, their torches slicing fragile shadows across the stone. They entered, thinking themselves stronger than superstition. They laughed at old stories, scoffed at the trembling priests who once guarded these halls, and one by one their laughter faded. In the lower chambers, the stone changes. It sweats beneath your touch, cool and damp, though no water runs here. Lanterns sputter in unseen drafts. Salt gathers like frost in the crevices. And the air carries a taste of something bitter, a powder of ancient death floating unseen. The first explorers coughed, then gasped, their lungs seared by spores released from crumbling wrappings. Their eyes burned, their skin grew pale, drawn tight across their bones in the days that followed. For scribes, the draw was knowledge, scrolls sealed in alabaster jars, texts whispered to hold secrets of eternity. They brushed away centuries of dust with reverent fingers, eager to translate forgotten rites. And in doing so, they breathed death. Papyrus, long dormant, now released clouds of unseen menace. Molds, no longer dormant, awoke in the warm breath of the living. And soon, fever took the hands that had reached too far. Ink blurred beneath shaking fingers. Words unfinished. Still, deeper they went. A merchant, desperate for favor in the court, ordered his men to breach a sealed chamber. Inside, jewels glistened in the dark, amulets of gold, lapis, and obsidian, but no man left that chamber whole. One by one they fell, some upon the stone itself, their last breath drawn amidst the glitter of a dead king's treasures. Others days later struck by illness none could name, and still others changed. Eyes hollow, speech broken, haunted by visions of black-winged figures standing watch in the corners of their rooms. In the quiet of the tomb, such tales grew, whispered first among the workers, then carried to the ears of priests, then to the scholars who recorded them with trembling pens. One scroll speaks of a man, unnamed, who laughed as he lifted the seal of a great sarcophagus. He spoke of gold and of triumph. Within a fortnight, madness had claimed him. He clawed at unseen shapes in the night, screaming of a voice beneath the stone calling his name. His body was found cold and still, his eyes wide, mouth frozen mid-cry. The tale spread, as such tales do. Not all believed, not all feared, but those who did left offerings at the mouth of the tomb. Small jars of honey, scarabs of stone, salt scattered upon the threshold. And yet the tomb waited still, its hunger not sated, its breath moving softly through the dark. And across the shifting sands another expedition gathered, scholars, soldiers, pilgrims of curiosity and greed. Their torches flickered in the wind as they descended the first steps. And behind them, the stone whispered once more, and across the cold beams, shadows gathered in silence. The deeper one walks beneath the sands, the more time seems to lose its grip. There are no windows here, no sun, no stars. Oh, only the slow drip of water through unseen cracks, and the soft sigh of the earth itself. You move beneath stone older than empires, the weight of centuries pressing down with every step. And now, before you, a sealed door, bound with rusted bands of bronze, cracks filled with black resin, long hardened. Hieroglyphs shiver beneath your lantern's flickering light. The guardian waits within. Let not the living trespass. But men are seldom wise in the face of gold. It was said that a certain amulet, the Eye of Set, had been hidden beyond such a door. Forged in a forgotten age, worn once by the highest priest of the Black Temple, a charm of warding or of binding. None could say for sure. The first attempt to breach the door failed. Tools bent, blades dulled. But greed is patient. By the second night, under torchlight dimmed with soot, they broke the seal. Stone cracked like bone beneath the strikes. The chamber beyond swallowed the light. Air moved in slow, deliberate gusts, as if the space itself were breathing. Dust hung thick, shimmering in the glow of lanterns. Here stood rows of figures, statues of obsidian and ivory, their gazes blind yet watchful. Between them, a simple pedestal, and upon it, the Eye of Set, a disk of hammered gold, inlaid with onyx and lapis. Its center, a pupil of polished jet that seemed to drink the light around it. For a moment, no man moved. Then, a gloved hand reached forward. Slowly, deliberately, the amulet was lifted. The air shifted. A sound, no louder than a sigh, moved through the room, and the flame of one torch shuddered, then died. None spoke, none breathed. Then with trembling resolve, they turned back through the winding corridors, each step marked by a heartbeat loud in the silence. But the curse had already taken root. The bearer of the eye fell ill before dawn. First a fever, hot as the desert sun, then chills so deep no fire could warm him. By the second day, strange marks bloomed across his skin, dark as ink, winding like serpents beneath the flesh. His speech faltered, words twisted, eyes sunken, staring at unseen shapes beyond the campfire's light. By the third night, he vanished. Tracks led into the desert, unshod, alone. They found him at dawn, kneeling in the sands, lips cracked, blood staining his chin, eyes wide, unseeing, fixed upon the rising sun. The Eye of Set lay in the sand before him, untouched, cold. But the curse was not done. One by one, those who had entered the chamber sickened, some within days, others weeks later upon returning to the cities of the Nile. Scholars documented the spread of the affliction. Fever of the black eye, they called it in trembling script, a wasting of the spirit. Records spoke of men who perished in silence, eyes weeping blood, of voices heard in the dark, soft, insistent, calling them back beneath the earth. Even those untouched by sickness felt its shadow. Dreams grew strange. Rooms seemed colder. Mirrors clouded without reason. And the eye? It vanished. Some say it was hidden again beneath deeper stone. Others whisper that it moves still, passing from hand to hand, leaving ruin in its wake. Few dare seek it now. Even fewer speak its name. And in the halls of the tomb, beneath the breath of ancient stone, the empty pedestal waits, its shadow stretching long in the cold light of forgotten suns. And through forgotten corridors, soft footsteps echoed. The tomb remembers. Long after kings have crumbled to dust, long after the sands have swallowed whole empires, the stones beneath the earth keep their secrets, and sometimes they whisper them. It was in the late years of the century when the fever of exploration swept across Egypt. Europe sent its men armed with maps, with eager eyes, with tools of iron and brass. But they brought with them no reverence, only hunger. One such man was Lord Ashcombe, a scholar by name, a collector by nature. He had heard tales of a forgotten royal tomb, sealed beneath the cliffs beyond Thebes. Locals warned him, "It is a tomb of hunger," they said, "a place that devours." But Ashcombe laughed. Gold weighed more than ghost stories in his ledger. With servants and guides he pressed into the desert. By torchlight and trembling compass they found it. A narrow crevice beneath sun-bleached stone, sealed once with wax and prayer, now cracked, now waiting. Ashcombe ordered the way cleared. Day by day stone was pried away. The mouth of the tomb yawned wider, and with each breath the air grew colder. "Bad air," muttered the guides. But the Englishmen pressed on. At last they entered. Narrow corridors twisted like veins through the bedrock. Hieroglyphs blinked beneath the soot of old torches. Figures of the god Anubis watched from every wall, jackal eyes gleaming in the dark. Ashcombe noted it all in his journal. The stench is strange, sweet, cloying, as if the tomb breathes decay. But greed is deaf. Deeper still they moved, past niches filled with broken jars, past doors long rotted. At the heart of the tomb they found it, the royal chamber, a cavern of stone, its floor thick with dust. Here lay the sarcophagus, immense, carved from red granite veined with black. Its lid bore curses etched deep. "He who opens this shall be known to the gods, and judged." Ashcombe smiled. "We open it at dawn," he said. That night in their desert camp the air grew still. Servants whispered of voices heard in the wind. Shapes flickered at the edge of firelight. Salt spilled across worn wood. No one had touched the bowl. Ashcombe wrote in his journal, "Strange unease among the men, superstitious nonsense. Tomorrow brings gold." At dawn they returned. The lid was heavy. It took 4 men to shift it. Stone screamed upon stone as it moved. Inside, a king, long dead, linen rotted, gold tarnished with time. Upon the chest a pectoral, scarabs of lapis and turquoise, amulets clenched in brittle fingers, and beneath the wrappings, teeth still bared in an eternal grimace. Ashcombe reached first. His fingers brushed the pectoral, and the air seemed to pulse. A faint tremor passed through the stone. "The air burns," wrote one servant later. The torchlight dimmed, as though breath had been stolen from the room. By midday, Ashcombe was ill. Sweat beaded his brow. A tremor shook his hands. His voice grew faint, words trailing into whispers. The light, they are watching," he murmured. No doctor could save him. By dusk his pulse had faded. His eyes stared wide, the pupils pinpricks of black. The journal closed with a final line, scrawled in a shaking hand. "The tomb remembers." His body was returned to the city. But those who handled it, 2 servants, a guide, also fell ill within days. Their skin marred with dark blotches, their minds lost. And the tomb? Sealed once more, left beneath shifting sands where the stones still whisper. Of gold, of greed, of those who thought themselves beyond the reach of ancient hands. And beneath worn velvet, the keys sang faintly once more. The curse follows, not swiftly, not with the clash of blade or roar of flame, but softly, a breath against the skin, a whisper behind the ear, a shadow where none should fall. Such was the tale of the Alexandria shipment. It began with a crate, weathered oak, bound in iron bands, stenciled upon its side. Artifacts, royal tomb, handle with care. Within, a collection of ancient treasures, ivory combs, fragments of faience beads, a mirror of beaten bronze, and at the heart of the crate, a mask, not of gold as some, but carved from dark sycamore, its features inlaid with obsidian and shell, eyes hollow, smile too wide. It had been lifted from a minor tomb, or so they thought, its true origin lost beneath layers of trade, theft, and silence. The crate was bound for Europe, a private collector, a man of wealth, eager to display a king's death mask in his study. The journey began beneath a pall of desert heat. The crate loaded aboard a river bark, its timbers groaning beneath the weight of other plunder. For the merchants, it was just another cargo. But the boatmen crossed themselves as it was lashed into place. Such things should not travel with the living, one muttered. As the boat pushed from the shore, the first sign came. Wind rose from the west, a hot, dry gust against the flow of the Nile. The helmsman frowned. "Wrong wind," he said. By nightfall, the river had stilled to glass. No current, no breeze. Only the slow creak of the hull as it drifted in place. The crew grew restless. Torches flared without cause, their flames guttering in unseen drafts. And beneath the deck, where the crate lay bound, the air grew cold. The steward who ventured down returned pale, breath shallow. "It is colder than stone," he whispered. "The lanterns will not stay lit." No one dared approach it, but the shipment had been paid for. They pressed on. By dawn the current returned, but with it, fog, thick as wool, wrapping the bark in silence. The riverbanks vanished. Sounds became distant, muffled. Even the call of the ibis seemed swallowed by the gray. The captain ordered the crate moved to the upper deck. Perhaps the air would ease its strange chill. As they hauled it up, the crate shifted. A low crack sounded, not of timber but something deeper. The lashings trembled, fraying as if drawn taut by unseen hands. When the mask emerged into the pale light, the crew stepped back. The wood glistened with a thin sheen of moisture. Salt crystals rimmed its edges, though no sea spray had touched it. One sailor spat and crossed himself. It should go overboard. The captain refused. The payment was too great, and so they sailed on. But the fog did not lift. By the third day, the helmsman was found at dawn, face pale, lips blue, no mark upon him, eyes wide, fixed upon the mast. "The shadows move," he had whispered the night before. Now they did. Figures glimpsed at the edge of vision, shifts of darker gray within the fog, lanterns dimmed, voices failed. The crew grew silent, fear nesting deep within their bones. On the fifth night, the crate broke. With a sound like splitting stone, its timbers burst outward. The mask slid free, settling upon the deck with a soft thud. No one moved to touch it, and as the river wind rose at last, the fog began to thin. At dawn, the bark drifted, empty. No crew remained, no cargo. Only the mask, resting upon a coil of rope, its hollow gaze turned skyward. They found the vessel days later, washed ashore near a ruined temple. The mask was gone. Where, none could say. But in certain bazaars of Alexandria, old merchants still whisper, "A cursed face moves with the winds. It watches. It waits." And in the hollow dark, the breath of stone grew stronger. The curse does not sleep. Stone may bind it, sand may bury it. But once disturbed, it moves. And it does not always remain beneath the earth. The tale of Professor Lyle is known in certain old circles, spoken in hushed tones beneath library eaves, passed between trembling scholars. A man of letters, a seeker of truths. Yet even the brightest mind may falter in the face of shadows. It began with a scroll, recovered from a minor tomb, brittle with age, its surface scarred by salt and time. Lines of ink still clung to the fibers. A funerary hymn, they believed. The Song of Passage. Professor Lyle received it with delight. A scholar of ancient tongues, he had long sought fragments of this lost text. At once he prepared his study. A small room beneath the grand library, quiet, cold, walls lined with stone, a single window shuttered against the night. There, beneath the flicker of an old lamp, he unwrapped the scroll. Dust spiraled upward, glittering like frost. The fibers crackled beneath his gloved fingers, and upon them, lines of script winding like a serpent's path. To speak these words is to open the gate, read one line. To know them is to be known. Lyle smiled. Superstition. He set to work. Day faded into night. Candles burned low, wax dripped across the desk in slow rivers, and as the hours stretched thin, the room grew colder. At first he thought it a draught, a trick of the ancient stone, but soon his breath hung in the air, clouded. Ink froze upon his pen, and from the corner of the room, a sound, not footsteps, not wind, a faint rustle, as of cloth brushing stone. Lyle turned. Nothing. Yet the chill deepened. His lamp flickered. Shadows lengthened, bending unnaturally across the walls. And from the scroll itself, a faint scent arose. Resin, ash, something older. A voice seemed to whisper beneath his breath. Read on. And he did. Through the long hours of night, his pen scratched across fresh parchment, translating line after line deeper into the Song of Passage. To awaken the king is to call the dark. To carry his words is to carry his shadow. By dawn, the lamp guttered out. Wax pooled cold and thick. Lyle slumped in his chair, eyes rimmed with shadow, hands trembling. But he could not stop. For days he labored, refusing food, spurning sleep. The scroll seemed to burn with unseen fire, its words shifting when he turned away. Visitors found the air thick with chill, books coated in a fine sheen of frost. The room breathes wrong, one assistant whispered. By the seventh night, Lyle's voice failed, a dry rasp all that remained. And in the mirror above the hearth, strange marks began to appear, faint lines winding like script across the glass. They watch, he scrawled in a final note. They know. When the librarian unlocked the study at last, the room lay empty. The scroll rested upon the desk, untouched, but no sign of Lyle remained. Only the frost lingered, a delicate lacework across stone and wood, and upon the final sheet of parchment, the tomb moves, the song carries it forth. Some say Lyle walks still, though none see him by day. Shadows flicker along the library halls at dusk. Pages turn where no hand stirs them. And the scroll, locked beneath iron and salt, hidden deep within the archives. Yet sometimes, faint strains of ancient song echo through the stone, and beneath the nave a forgotten light flickered alone. The curse moves with objects, not bound by stone alone, but by the things men carry. A shard of obsidian, a faded amulet, a scroll half read, or, as in this tale, a small carved scarab. It was said to be harmless, a trinket no more, sold in the crowded markets of Cairo by a man whose stall had no name. An old thing, he whispered, from the tombs beneath the western cliffs. The buyer, Sir Edward Hale, a gentleman collector, known in certain London circles for his gatherings of Egyptian relics. His study was a shrine to the dead. Rows of papyrus beneath glass, statues of forgotten gods, cases lined with beads and fragments of linen, each labeled in his crisp hand. History breathes here, he would say, fingers trailing reverently across the cases. When the scarab came to him, it seemed a small addition, an idle curiosity, carved from jet, its surface worn smooth. No inscription, no known provenance. Still, it pleased him. He placed it at the center of his desk, beneath a bell jar of polished glass, and for a time all was well. But the scarab waited. On the first night, a strange chill crept into the study. Faint at first, the kind one might blame on the draught beneath an old door. Sir Edward stirred the fire. The flames danced higher, but the chill remained. The next evening the air grew heavier. Books smelled faintly of ash. The brass fittings of the cases tarnished overnight. Odd, he noted in his journal. Still, he dismissed it. Superstition had no place in his home of reason. But the scarab did not sleep. On the third night, as the clock chimed 3, Sir Edward awoke to silence. Not the soft hush of the night, but a deeper, pressing quiet. No wind, no creak of timbers. Even the embers in the hearth seemed frozen. Drawn by unease, he rose and made his way to the study. The door stood ajar. A draught of cold air swept past him. Inside, the lamp upon his desk flickered weakly, and beneath the glass the scarab gleamed, wet as though newly carved. Its eyes, twin pits of black, seemed to watch him. Sir Edward reached out. A single finger brushed the glass, and frost spread in a spiderweb across its surface. He recoiled. "Impossible," he whispered. But the air answered with a sound, soft, dry. The faint rustle of wings, or cloth drawn across stone. Shadows gathered at the edges of the room. One by one the flames dimmed. First the lamp, then the hearth. And in the deepening dark, the scarab seemed to pulse, a slow, rhythmic throb. Sir Edward fled. The next morning the housekeeper found him slumped in his chair, pale and trembling. "The cold, it breathes," he muttered. "The eyes, always watching." He ordered the study sealed. No servant dared enter, but the chill seeped beneath the door. Frost rimed the lock. Books within blackened at the edges, as though burned by unseen flame. Word spread. Scholars whispered of the scarab, its origins unknown. A fragment of the Black Tomb, one suggested. An anchor for the lingering dead. Sir Edward's health withered, eyes hollow, skin drawn tight. His words faded to murmurs, then to silence. At last, the study was breached. They found him seated at the desk, gaze fixed upon the scarab. No breath stirred his chest. The glass lay shattered. The scarab, gone. Some say it was taken, others that it moved of its own accord. But in certain circles the tale remains. Beware the small things, they say, for it is through them the curse may pass. And through unseen cracks, salt whispered faintly still. The sea does not cleanse all things. Some burdens travel with the tide. It was the autumn of 1912 when the steamship Caledonia Star took on her final cargo. A commission for the Royal Antiquities Society. 6 crates bound for England. Contents: artifacts recovered from a newly disturbed tomb near Abydos. Among them, stone ushabti, funerary amulets, painted fragments of cartonnage, and a single long crate marked only with a sigil none aboard could read. The dock-hands spoke in low voices. "Best left beneath the sand," one muttered. "Such things wake the old ones." But the captain, Elias Dunham, paid no heed. He had sailed 1,000 leagues. No superstition would mar his ledger. By dusk, the crates were secured in the forward hold. The ship cast off beneath a pale moon. Smoke rose in slow spirals as the engines churned to life. For the first days the voyage was calm, the sea smooth as glass beneath a silver sky. Yet below decks, the hold grew cold. The steward was the first to notice. "Strange air below," he told the first mate. "Breathes wrong, damp, and heavy." The crew dismissed it. Salt air, sweat, the scent of ancient things. But the cold deepened. Frost formed upon the iron straps of the long crate. Salt crystals rimed the planks, and at night, sounds echoed from the hold. Soft tapping, faint whispers carried on a windless air. The engineer heard them beneath the hum of the engines. "Voices below," he said. "No crewman speaks so low." Then came the fog, thick as cloth, rolling in without warning. For 3 days the Caledonia Star sailed through shadow. The horn's mournful cry met only by silence. Stars vanished, compass needles drifted, spinning slow circles, and within the hold, the long crate trembled. Ropes strained, timbers groaned beneath unseen weight. The steward who ventured down returned pale, voice shaking. "The eyes, the crate weeps," he whispered. No one dared follow. By the 5th day the first death came. The boatswain, a man of iron will, was found upon the deck at dawn. Eyes wide, mouth frozen mid-cry, skin rimed with frost. His log recorded a final entry. The whispers grow, they call from the dark. Fear spread. The crew begged the captain to jettison the cursed cargo, but the fog held them fast. No land in sight, no star to guide them, and the cold seeped upward. Frost rimed the portholes. Water in the galley froze in its pails. Breath hung in the air like smoke. Crew huddled by the boilers, fire burning hot as it could, but the warmth did not reach the hold. There, beneath iron and salt, the long crate pulsed faintly, a low thrum like the beating of a buried heart. By the 7th night the captain relented. They would cast it overboard at first light, but dawn never came. The fog deepened. Darkness pressed against the glass. Lanterns guttered and failed. One by one the crew vanished. First the steward, then the engineer, gone without trace. Footprints led to the forward hold, and ended. The remaining men barred the hatch, trembling with cold and fear. "It breathes," one whispered. "The sea cannot drown it." The captain kept watch through the long night, pistol in hand, eyes fixed upon the trembling hatch. But when the fog finally broke, no ship was seen, only a drifting lifeboat. Within, a single logbook, pages damp with sea salt. "The curse walks the waves," the final entry read. "We are undone." The Caledonia Star was never found, but fishermen speak of strange lights upon the water, of a ship adrift beneath a dead sky, and beneath the shifting tide a heartbeat lingers still, and beneath worn velvet the keys sang faintly once more. Not all treasures gleam beneath the sun. Some carry the weight of shadow, bound in metal worn by unseen hands. Such was the fate of Dr. Elias Morant, a man of letters, a seeker of forgotten truths. His passion, the ancient rites of death in the Old Kingdom. His flaw, curiosity untempered by caution. The expedition had uncovered a lesser tomb beyond Saqqara, a place thought plundered, bones scattered, walls worn by centuries of shifting sand. But deep within a narrow chamber beneath a slab of limestone they found it, a small coffer blackened with age, its seal intact, the mark of the jackal, glyphs for protection and binding etched deep. "We should not open it," one worker warned. "It holds what is not meant to pass." But Dr. Morant laughed. "Superstition," he said, hand steady upon the stone. Beneath layers of cloth and resin lay a single ring, wrought of electrum, veined with green corrosion, its surface smooth yet cold beyond the touch of metal. A single glyph coiled upon its band, a serpent devouring its own tail. The Ouroboros, an ancient symbol of eternity and entrapment. Without pause, Dr. Morant slipped the ring upon his finger. "A scholar's token," he mused. "I shall wear it until the work is done." But the ring had other designs. That night, as campfires dwindled beneath a waning moon, the first sign came, a cold breath against his skin. not of wind. The tent was sealed. He stirred beneath his blanket, breath clouding the air. From the ring, a faint pulse, rhythmic and slow. A chill spreading along his hand, into his wrist, deeper still. He rubbed it, dismissing the sensation. Fatigue, he wrote in his journal. The mind plays tricks in such ancient places, but the cold remained. By dawn the flesh beneath the band had blanched pale as bone, veins traced beneath the skin in dark rivulets. "Remove it," urged the camp physician. "The metal is tainted." But the ring held fast. No oil, no blade, no solvent could shift it. An amusing puzzle. Dr. Morant smiled, though his eyes betrayed unease. The hours dragged. Each breath drew slower. Speech faltered to whispers. By the third night, dreams claimed him. Visions of dark corridors, walls slick with moisture, of figures bound in linen reaching with clawed hands. "Join us," they whispered. "Wear the circle unbroken." He awoke, trembling, fingers numb, the ring's surface now black as obsidian. "It listens," he wrote with a shaking hand. By the fifth day his flesh withered beneath the band, nails blackened, skin split and wept, and yet still he would not yield. "To surrender is to feed it," he rasped. "I will see it through." But knowledge brings no shield. On the seventh night, the camp awoke to silence. Dr. Morant's tent stood empty. The ring alone remained, upon a stone at the center of the floor. Its surface gleamed wet, as though kissed by unseen lips. And upon the canvas walls, words scrawled in trembling hand. "The circle calls. I go to meet it." They searched for days. No trace was found. Only the ring, cold and still, waiting once more. Now it lies within a sealed box locked in the archives of the British Museum. But from time to time, frost blooms upon its glass. Salt creeps along the edges of its case, and beneath folded letters, breath stirs faintly unseen. Some relics should never leave the tomb. Not all can rest beneath glass, nor remain silent when handled by the living. Such was the case of the Pharaoh's hand. It was a curiosity at first, an acquisition by Sir Henry Ashcroft, collector, antiquarian, man of wealth and idle hours. The hand came through obscure channels, no provenance, no seal of the Antiquities Office, merely a parcel wrapped in faded linen, bound with twine blackened by age. A priest's token, the seller claimed, a guardian's hand taken from a tomb beneath the Valley of Kings. Sir Henry, ever hungry for the rare and forbidden, purchased it without hesitation. The hand, once unwrapped, was a thing of dark fascination. Mummified flesh, fingers curled as if in warning or command, nails lacquered in faded gold, palm tattooed with glyphs near lost to time, spirals and serpent eyes. An exquisite oddity, Sir Henry remarked to his circle. He placed it within a case of rosewood and glass upon a velvet pillow in the heart of his study. Beneath dim gas lamps, among curiosities gathered from across the world. For a time it sat in silence, but certain things wait, and not all that sleeps beneath the earth forgets. It began subtly. The lamp nearest the case dimmed more quickly than the others. Its flame guttered even when the chimney was cleaned. Then came the chill. One evening Sir Henry entered the study to find frost upon the glass. Breath clouded before his lips. "A draught," he muttered, though the windows were sealed. Still, he remained. Late into the night, beneath the soft ticking of the long case clock, he pored over an ancient papyrus. Then, a faint sound, a tap, light, deliberate, against the glass of the case. Sir Henry looked up. The room stood empty. The hand remained still, fingers frozen mid-gesture. Yet upon the inner surface of the glass, 5 faint marks appeared. prints, thin and long, trailing frost in their wake. He rubbed them away. Condensation, he insisted. But the next night, they returned. And more. The clock slowed. Its pendulum swayed unevenly, time itself stuttering beneath unseen weight. Books fell from shelves without cause. Shadows lengthened, pooling in corners where no light reached. Sir Henry, ever the skeptic, began to waver. He sought counsel. "Burn it," one old friend urged. "Return it to the sand," another whispered. But pride bound him. "No object commands me," he declared. And so the hand remained. Night after night the air grew colder. Salt crusted upon the wood of the case. The velvet beneath the hand darkened as though stained by unseen tears. Sir Henry's sleep grew restless. He dreamed of narrow corridors, walls slick with resin, of a voice, deep and dry, repeating words he could not understand. "Awaken," it whispered. "Restore what was taken." By the seventh night he no longer slept. Eyes ringed with shadow, fingers trembling, he kept vigil before the case. A revolver rested upon the desk, useless against such things, but a comfort nonetheless. Then, as the clock struck 3, the final sign came. A sound, wet, deliberate. He turned. The glass stood open. The hand, gone. Upon the velvet, a smear of frost. Trailing across the polished wood of the desk, fading toward the darkened hall. Sir Henry never left that study again. The servants found him at dawn, eyes wide, lips pale, one hand clutched tight to his chest. Beneath his fingers, 5 thin welts, dark as ink. And the hand? Never found. Yet some nights, beneath the ticking of the clock, a faint tapping is heard against unseen glass, and through forgotten corridors, soft footsteps echoed. Not all curses claim their victims swiftly. Some drift through the years like smoke, waiting for the moment the seal weakens, and the breath of stone stirs once more. Such was the tale of the Ka statue, a figure of simple beauty, no taller than a child's arm, carved of ebony veined with faint silver, eyes inlaid with shell and obsidian, gleaming beneath layers of ancient oil. It had once stood in the sanctuary of a forgotten tomb, a vessel for the Ka, the spirit of the departed, meant to house the essence of the king through eternity. But eternity had been disturbed. Unearthed in the dry season of 1898, beneath a collapsed shrine, the statue was lifted from the dust by trembling hands. A rare find, the archaeologist noted, unbroken, untouched. And so it traveled across the desert, across the sea, to the vaults of the British Museum. There it languished in shadow, shelved among other relics, forgotten beneath layers of catalog numbers and indifferent dust, until the arrival of Miss Evelyn Harrow, curator of antiquities, a scholar of quiet devotion, known for her late hours beneath the museum's vaulted halls. It was she who found the statue one winter's eve, its crate left unclaimed in a darkened storeroom. Drawn by the craftsmanship, she cleaned it with reverent care, placing it within a niche of polished stone in the Egyptian wing. A simple guardian, she mused. Let it watch once more. And it did. At first, nothing stirred. Visitors passed beneath its gaze untroubled. The halls echoed with soft footfalls, the scent of old paper and polished wood thick in the air. But the cold came, subtle at first, a breath of frost upon the glass, the faint scent of ash drifting beneath the scent of linen and stone. Then the lights began to dim. Not all, only those nearest the statue. Bulbs flickered, filaments blackening with unnatural speed. Miss Harrow noticed. Faulty wiring, she noted in her log. Yet the maintenance men found no flaw. Still, she dismissed it. But the signs deepened. Salt crystals formed along the statue's plinth, delicate as lace. Books in nearby cases warped at the edges, their ink blurring as though wept by unseen hands. And at night, shadows gathered, faint outlines beneath the glass, as though a figure stood watching from within. Miss Harrow worked late one rain-stilled night. The museum lay empty but for the hush of the storm beyond thick stone walls. Drawn once more to the statue, she stood before it in the dim light of a single lamp. Her breath clouded in the air. The glass before her frosted lines of frost spiraling outward like the coils of a serpent. And from the plinth, a sound, soft, a low thrum, as of stone shifting beneath deep earth. She stepped back, heart quickened. The lamp flickered, and in its final sputtering glow, she saw it, the eyes of the statue gleaming wet, as though watching her with hunger. "The Ka awakens," a voice seemed to whisper, dry as dust. The lamp died. Darkness swallowed the hall. Miss Harrow fled, breath ragged in her throat. Come dawn, she sealed the wing. A preservation concern, the report claimed, but those who passed the barred doors spoke of cold seeping through the wood, of faint taps upon the glass when no hand stirred. Miss Harrow never entered again. Her notes remain, fragments scrawled in a trembling hand. "The Ka waits. We should not disturb what watches in silence." Now the statue rests once more beneath layers of cloth and iron, deep within the archives. But beneath the vault's stone the air runs cold, and beneath folded velvet breath stirs faintly still. Not all treasures lie hidden in tombs. Some drift quietly into the world of the living, a single bead, a fragment of a forgotten whole, and with them the weight of unseen eyes. It was the season in London, 1924, a time of glittering salons and whispered intrigue. Among the collectors, few were more envied than Lady Margaret Vey, heiress, patron of the arts, known for her lavish gatherings in the great halls of Vey House. Her passion, ancient jewelry, amber, ivory, lapis, each stone a voice from the past. It was at an estate auction that the bead appeared. Lot 47. Egyptian faience bead, third intermediate period. A single piece, pale green with flecks of deep blue. Perfectly round, its surface etched with faint spirals, worn soft by centuries. "An orphaned bead," the auctioneer intoned, "from a necklace of unknown origin, provenance lost." "No matter." Lady Vey's eyes gleamed. "It will complete my collection," she whispered. The bid was swift. The bead was hers. That evening, beneath the flicker of crystal chandeliers, she cradled it in her gloved hand. "Such simplicity," she mused. "And yet, it hums with memory." She commissioned a setting at once, a pendant of silver and jet, the bead its heart. Within days it adorned her throat, and with it, the change began. At first, dreams, corridors of endless stone, footsteps echoing in empty halls. A voice, soft as dust, whispering words just beyond hearing. "Return what is lost," it breathed. She awoke each morning chilled, breath clouding in the dawn light. "The house grows cold," she remarked, but the servants found no fault. Soon the bead itself began to shift. Its surface gleamed wet beneath the lamp's glow. Faint trails of salt crept along the chain, and shadows deepened within the mirrored halls of Vey House. At her soirees, guests remarked on the air, heavy, cold. "A strange draught," they murmured, a weight behind the eyes. Lady Vey dismissed them. "Old houses breathe strangely," she laughed, though her smile waned. Each night the dreams grew darker. Figures cloaked in linen, eyes rimmed in kohl, watching from beyond columns of stone. "Restore the whole," they whispered. "Return the circle unbroken." She grew pale. Hands trembled. The servants whispered of her wandering the halls by candlelight, tracing unseen paths upon the walls. One morning a maid found her before the great mirror in the east wing, eyes hollow, lips moving in silent speech. Across the glass a single word traced in frost: return. Terrified, the staff fled. The staff. Alone, Lady Vey clutched the pendant, breath shallow. "It calls," she whispered. "I cannot let it go." But the bead had its own will. That night, as the clock struck 3, a sound echoed through the house. A soft chime, metal upon stone. In the library, they later found the pendant shattered. The bead lay upon the hearth, gleaming cold beneath a drift of ash. Lady Vey was gone. No trace remained, but a single line scrawled in her diary: "I follow the voice beneath the stone." To this day, the bead is said to wander. It surfaces in the shadowed corners of auctions, in the private cabinets of unwitting collectors. And with it, the chill of unseen breath, the weight of ancient longing, and beneath worn velvet the keys sang faintly once more. Stone remembers, even in fragments. No hand can truly erase the mark of time, nor the weight of what was once bound beneath chisel and spell. Such was the lesson of the fragment known only as Relief 22A, a modest piece, unearthed from the debris of a collapsed burial chamber near Deir el-Medina. No grand inscription, no gilded cartouche, just a portion of carved limestone, pale as bone, veined with faint green. A partial figure, its face long worn, but the eyes, those eyes remained. Narrow, elongated, carved with such precision they seemed to follow the hand that reached toward them. An anonymous piece, the catalog read, assigned to storage, pending restoration. And so it waited, deep within the museum's vaults, until it came to the desk of Anton Varga, master restorer, a man of meticulous craft, known for reviving lost faces from the decay of centuries. "A simple project," he remarked upon its arrival, "a study in form, but some forms are best left forgotten." He began as he always did, a sterile workspace, tools laid with ritual care, soft cloth, brushes of sable, a single lamp, its light steady and warm, and the fragment centered upon a cradle of felt. At first, all was as expected. Dust lifted beneath the gentle pass of the brush, edges defined beneath his careful gaze. Details emerged. A line of feathered headdress, a collar of faded blue. Yet each time his gaze returned to the eyes, they seemed altered, sharper, deeper, the shadow within them thickening with each passing hour. "Trick of the light," he murmured. But the room answered only with silence. By the third day, the air shifted. Cool drafts whispered beneath the work table. Salt crystals formed along the stone's edge, delicate and pale. The lamp flickered, though its wick was new, and each night, upon locking the chamber, he glimpsed faint marks upon the glass of the viewing case, as though fingertips had pressed from within. Residual oils, he told himself. Nothing more. Yet doubt grew. Sleep eluded him. In its place, dreams. Narrow halls, their walls slick with resin. A voice dry as bone. Restore the face. Complete the vessel. He awoke chilled, breath clouding in the warm air of his study. Still, he worked on. On the 6th night, the final layer of grime lifted, and there, beneath the fragile surface, a sigil revealed, a single glyph, ancient, rare, the jet, the knot of Isis, symbol of binding, of protection, or imprisonment. His hands trembled. For a moment he hesitated, brush poised above the stone. Then, with a breath held tight, he traced the lines clear. The temperature plummeted. Frost crept across the table's edge. The lamp flared, then dimmed. and from the stone, a sound, a low hum, not of air, nor of machine, but of something deeper, a resonance that seemed to stir within the marrow of the bone. "Enough," he whispered. "Enough." He sealed the fragment within its case, layered cloth and lead above it. But that night, sleep would not come. Shadows danced upon the walls of his room, cast by no visible flame, and in the mirror above his washstand, eyes gleamed, the same eyes, watching, waiting. By dawn, Anton Varga was gone. The chamber remained locked. When the curator dared enter days later, they found the workspace undisturbed, save for a single note scrawled in trembling hand. The face should not be seen, the vessel should not be whole, and the fragment? Returned to deep storage, crated, sealed, marked for no further study. Yet beneath layers of cloth and stone, the eyes remain, watching, and across the cold beams, shadows gathered in silence. Not all vessels hold what they seem. Some bear not oil, but shadow, bound beneath seal and prayer, waiting for the hand bold, or foolish, enough to break the silence. Such was the fate of Father Alaric Dane, priest, scholar, keeper of the small chapel of St. Elias, a place of quiet stone, lost amid the winding lanes of the old quarter. In the autumn of 1932, a curious parcel arrived at his door. A gift, the letter claimed, from a patron of antiquities newly returned from Egypt. An artifact of spiritual interest, the note read, perhaps of use in your rites. Within the plain box, a vial, glass dark as pitch, sealed with a stopper of black wax impressed with a faded sigil. Around its neck, a cord of frayed linen. No inscription, no provenance, and yet a faint scent clung to the vessel. Rich, resinous, and something older, sharper. An anointing oil, Father Dane mused, perhaps for the departed. He placed it within the vestry cabinet beneath the great iron key, and for a time all was still. But the oil waited. That winter brought illness to the quarter, the chapel filled with the weary, the sick, and Father Dane, a man of deep compassion, sought any aid that might ease their passage. If this vessel holds blessing, he thought, let it serve. On a gray dawn, beneath the flicker of guttering candles, he broke the seal. A faint hiss escaped the wax, a breath held for centuries. The stopper lifted with slow resistance. Within, oil thick and black as jet, its surface unbroken. And upon the air, a scent that clawed at the throat, sweet, cloying, rotten beneath its perfume. Yet he poured a single drop upon his fingers, cold, far colder than any oil should be. It seemed to sink into his skin with unnatural swiftness. A strange thing, he murmured. But the rites began. Upon the brow of the first supplicant he traced the sign of blessing. The oil left no mark, yet the flesh beneath grew pale. Breath slowed, eyes fluttered. Fatigue, Father Dane assured the family. But the signs deepened. Those anointed spoke of dreams, narrow corridors beneath the earth, voices in forgotten tongues. Return what was sealed, they whispered in sleep. And the oil grew colder. Each night its level seemed unchanged, as though no drop had truly been taken. The vial itself rhymed with frost. Salt bloomed upon its glass. Still, Father Dane persisted. Faith over fear, he told himself. The shadows shall yield to the light. But the light waned. Within the chapel, candles burned low, their flames guttering beneath unseen drafts. The great bell tolled of its own accord, deep, slow, a voice from beneath the stone. And in the mirror of the vestry, frost traced spirals unseen by waking eyes. The vessel calls, whispered the sick. It hungers. By the seventh day, Father Dane stood alone. The pews lay empty, the air thick with chill and silence. Before the altar, the vial remained, its stopper gone, oil rising in slow coils of dark vapor. "I see now," the priest wrote in his final journal. "This was never a gift, but a summons. May the stone remember me kindly." When the curate arrived at dawn, the chapel stood cold and still. Father Dane was gone. Upon the altar, a single mark traced in oil, a serpent devouring its tail. The vial? Shattered. Yet the scent lingers still, beneath stone worn smooth by kneeling hands, in the air that breathes cold within the chapel walls, and through unseen cracks, salt whispered faintly still. Some relics do not announce themselves in stone or iron. Some arrive soft, pliant, woven from forgotten threads, yet their weight upon the soul is no less heavy. Such was the tale of the golden veil. It arrived as part of a larger shipment, bolts of silk, linen, strange brocades, from an estate sale in Alexandria. Among them, one roll unlike the others, a fabric of shimmering gold, its threads fine as hair, cool beneath the touch. No pattern discernible save for a faint ripple, as though water moved across its surface. From an unknown tomb, the manifest noted, recovered during excavations of a noble crypt. The buyer, Monsieur Claude Renier, couturier of some renown. "A rare find," he remarked, fingertips gliding across the cloth. "A fabric fit for the divine." The veil was set aside, destined for something exquisite. But the fabric waited. In the dim light of Renier's atelier, it seemed to shift subtly, catching the gaslight in odd ways, edges curling when no breeze stirred. "The weave is strange," he told his assistant, "yet it calls the hand to shape it." And so he began. By candlelight and quiet hours he fashioned a shawl, edges hemmed with silk thread, fringe of black beads trailing like falling water. Each stitch seemed to draw him deeper. The air grew colder as he worked. The flames of the lamps trembled in unseen drafts. Still he pressed on. "It breathes," his assistant whispered one night. "When you sew, the cloth breathes." Renier laughed, though unease pricked the edges of his mind. By the seventh night, the shawl was complete, a thing of impossible beauty, light as mist, yet cool beneath the touch. When worn, it seemed to shimmer of its own accord, a living thing. "A masterpiece," he declared. "We shall present it at the salon." But the shawl had other designs. The first to wear it, a young model of pale grace. She draped it across her shoulders with delight. "It hums," she murmured. "I feel it in my blood." Within hours her skin grew cold, breath slowed, eyes rimmed with shadow. "A chill," she whispered, trembling beneath the golden folds. She collapsed that evening, no cause discernible. Her final words, "The cloth, it sings beneath my skin." Renier dismissed it as illness, but the signs deepened. Those who handled the shawl grew pale. Breath clouded even in warm rooms. Salt dusted the floor beneath its stand. Threads darkened, gleaming wet beneath the lamps. "It is cursed," the assistant whispered. "You must burn it." But Renier could not. "It is my finest work," he insisted. "No superstition will claim it." And so the shawl remained. Yet each night it moved. Folds shifted. Edges trailed across the work table, though no hand touched them. At dawn, footprints of frost marked the wooden floor, trailing from the stand to the mirror and back. "It watches," the assistant wept. "I will not enter again." Renier stood alone, and on the final night he wore the shawl himself. "If it must be owned," he whispered, "let it be mine." As the fabric touched his skin, the room fell silent. Lamps guttered out. Breath froze upon his lips. In the glass he saw not his reflection, but a figure swathed in gold, eyes hollow, mouth parted in eternal whisper. "Join us," it breathed. "Wrap the living in the cloth of the dead." By morning Renier was gone. The shawl lay folded upon the stand, faint trails of salt marking its path. Now it rests beneath lock and seal, buried deep within the vaults of forgotten fashion. Yet from time to time, fabric rustles in the dark where no wind stirs, and beneath the nave a forgotten light flickered alone. Masks were made to conceal, but some conceal more than the face. They bind what should not be worn nor seen. The mask of Amunet was never meant for the stage, and yet it found its way beneath the footlights. Its journey began in Cairo, 1927. An antiquities dealer, down on fortune and thick in debt, sold it quietly to a traveling theatrical troupe. An ancient ceremonial mask, he claimed, worn by priestesses in rites of renewal. The director, always hungry for exotic spectacle, purchased it without question. "Perfect for our new play," he said. "Let the gods grace the theater tonight." The mask was a work of strange beauty, gold beaten thin as breath, eyes of obsidian, deep and lightless, a faint smile, serene, knowing. Its inner surface was cool, even to the warmest touch. Its weight, near nothing. "It hungers for a face," the costumer whispered, fingers trembling as she fastened its ties. The role of the priestess fell to Julien Vey, an actor of great promise, known for his haunting presence. "I will wear it gladly," he said, laughing. "The audience shall not soon forget." But the mask did not wait for the stage. At the first fitting, a strange hush fell over the theater. Dust drifted through still air. Footsteps echoed long beyond their tread. "It holds the room," one stagehand whispered. They dismissed their fears. Yet when he donned the mask, the change began. "I feel drawn," he said, "as though the air thickens." In the glass of the dressing room his reflection wavered, eyes darkened, breath misted upon the mirror. Only nerves, he assured himself. The power of suggestion, but the mask was patient. On opening night the theater swelled with eager eyes. The curtain rose. Vey stepped into the light. The mask gleamed beneath the lamps. The audience leaned forward, entranced. Words flowed from his mouth, strange, lilting, not those of the script. Lines of forgotten cadence, soft and low. The cast exchanged glances. The director rose from his seat. Yet none could stop him. Vey moved with eerie grace, steps measured, eyes fixed beyond sight. "He speaks the old tongue," the costumer whispered, voice shaking. At the final act, a great chill swept the hall. Lamps guttered, breath hung in silver plumes. And upon the stage, Vey stood alone. The mask seemed to glow from within. Fingers traced glyphs unseen upon the air. "Return the vessel," he intoned. "Awaken the sealed." Then, darkness. When the lights returned, the stage was empty. No sign of Julien Vey. The mask lay upon the boards, cold as the grave. A single word carved anew upon its inner surface. Bound. Searches found nothing. The actor had vanished as if drawn through stone. The play was cancelled. The theater shuttered. Yet beneath dust and boards the mask remained. And those who entered after swore. At midnight, soft footfalls echo across the stage. A voice, distant, dry, speaks in forgotten tongues. And from the wings, faint eyes gleam within the dark. And deep within the stone, a voice waited still. Some vessels hold more than liquid. Some remember what they once poured forth. Prayers, blood, shadows. And once lifted, they remember who dared to drink. Such was the fate of Dr. Roland Hartley. an archaeologist of keen mind and steady hand, known for his work in the tombs of the Western Cliffs. It was during the long season of 1909 when the team uncovered a sealed antechamber, untouched, unbreached. Within lay the trappings of a forgotten priesthood, altars crumbled to dust, bones wound in faded linen, and at the heart of the room, a simple stone table. Upon it rested a single alabaster cup, delicate, thin-walled, its surface carved with spirals and stars. Within, a faint residue, blackened with time. A libation vessel, Hartley remarked, eyes gleaming, used in rites of renewal. The purity of the stone is remarkable. The workers refused to touch it. It drinks what should not be poured, one whispered. Hartley laughed. Superstition dies beneath reason, he said. He lifted the cup, weighing its chill in his palm. That night, as winds howled beyond the cliffs, the team gathered to catalog the find. Wine flowed among their small circle. Lamps cast trembling shadows across worn stone. And there, with a scholar's flourish, Hartley raised the alabaster cup. "Let us drink to knowledge," he declared. A single pour of deep red wine filled the vessel. For a moment, silence fell. Then, a faint sound, not from the team, but from the cup itself. A low hum, as though the stone sighed beneath the liquid's weight. "Strange acoustics," Hartley smiled. Without hesitation, he drank. The wine tasted cold, unnaturally so. A sharp bitterness lingered upon the tongue, but pride masked his unease. "A fine vintage," he lied. Yet that night sleep fled him. Visions coiled behind his eyes, great halls of obsidian, columns wound with serpents of light. A voice, deep without form. "You drink what was sealed. Now you carry it forth." He awoke in darkness, breath shallow, skin damp with cold. A fever, he assured himself. But the days that followed unraveled him. His skin grew pale, veins darkening beneath the surface. Breath came slow, each exhale visible even in the desert heat. Salt crusted the edges of his lips. The cup itself changed. No longer warm to the touch, it rhymed with frost within the tense dry air. Each morning faint traces of liquid appeared within, though none had poured anew. "I see it watching," Hartley whispered to his journal. "The cup knows the thirst of those who lift it." By the seventh night the team dared not approach. The tent stood silent, save for the soft clink of stone upon stone. At dawn they entered. Hartley was gone. Only the cup remained, resting upon the table, gleaming wet in the rising light. Beside it, a single line scrawled in a shaking hand. "The vessel calls, the vessel thirsts." Searches found no trace, only the faint scent of resin and frost upon the air. The cup was sealed, crated, returned to the museum vaults. But the crate grew cold. Salt bloomed upon its edges, and those who lingered near swore they heard it. A faint hum, a breath of unseen hunger. "Drink," the whisper seemed to say. "Drink and carry the shadow. Now it rests beneath layers of lead and iron. Yet from time to time frost creeps along the lock, and in the hollow dark the breath of stone grew stronger. Blades are forged to cut, but some, beneath their edge, carry older hungers. Hungers not dulled by time, nor sated by the blood of the living." Such was the tale of the blade of Detach. It came from the lower vaults of a ruined temple, beneath layers of sand and bone. Discovered in 1903 by a team seeking the lost rites of the dark god Detach. Among broken statuary and blackened altars, it was found. A dagger of meteoric iron, its surface rippled like dark water, cool beneath the desert heat. Upon its blade, faint etchings, spirals, thorns, a single eye. A ritual implement, the lead excavator, Marcus Fell, noted. Designed for sacrifice. Symbolic, perhaps. The workers refused to touch it. It sings beneath the hand, one murmured. But Fell dismissed them. We deal in stone and metal, not in spirits. He claimed the blade for study, storing it within his private tent. And there, beneath the flicker of oil lamps, he examined it. Each night the blade grew colder, its edge keen beyond measure. A single strand of linen parted beneath its weight. The craftsmanship is remarkable, Fell wrote. The iron bears no mark of age. But the signs grew darker. Shadows thickened near the blade. Salt dusted the fabric of the case, and at night from within the tent a faint hum rose, low, steady, not of wind nor machine. Fell began to dream. Corridors lined with bound figures. A hand, his own, lifting the blade high above an unseen altar. "Feed the blade," a voice whispered. "Restore its thirst." He awoke with trembling breath, skin cold despite the desert air. Dreams alone, he told himself, driven by superstition. Yet the blade called. On the 7th night, beneath a clouded moon, Fell returned to the tent alone. One touch will end this folly, he vowed. He drew the blade from its sheath, the iron gleaming darkly in the wavering light, and with a steady breath, he pressed its edge lightly against his palm. A single drop of blood welled forth, bright, vivid. It struck the blade with a sound, faint, like a sigh drawn from stone. The iron seemed to pulse beneath his fingers. A chill raced through his veins. "Enough!" he gasped, casting the blade aside. But the wound did not close. The cut remained vivid, edges rimed with frost. "I feel it watching," he wrote that night. "The blade carries its own hunger now." By dawn the wound had blackened. Veins traced dark paths beneath the skin. Breath came thin. Words faltered. "The blade dreams beneath my flesh," he scrawled. The team found his tent empty that evening. Only the blade remained, resting upon blood-stained cloth, and beside it, the final line of Fell's journal. "I feed it now, may none follow." The blade was sealed, wrapped in salted linen, entombed within lead. But in the vault where it now rests, the air grows cold. Salt gathers upon the lock, and those who pass near swear. A faint hum lingers still, and beneath worn velvet, the keys sang faintly once more. Some surfaces do not merely reflect. Some hold what was once trapped beneath their polished face, watching, waiting. Such was the fate of the mirror of Karenu, recovered from a minor burial shaft near Thebes. A simple object, or so it seemed. Bronze, finely cast, its surface blackened with age, edges etched with faded glyphs. To show the soul its path, the inscription read. Sealed for millennia in a cedar case, lined with linen stiff with dust. The work of cleansing fell to Helena Voss, a restorer of rare skill and quiet manner. "A simple task," she remarked. "We must reveal what lies beneath." And so the work began. In the hush of her workshop, beneath lamps dimmed against glare, she set to it. Layer by layer, centuries fell away. Darkened patina lifted beneath her careful blade. Symbols emerged, spirals, stars, the eye of Horus. But the surface beneath remained strangely cold, colder than metal should be. "Odd," she noted. As she worked, the air thickened. Salt dusted the edges of the table. Breath clouded before her lips. "The room chills too quickly," her assistant murmured. "Winter comes early this year," Helena replied, though her voice lacked conviction. Each evening she covered the mirror with linen, sealing it with care. Yet each morning, the cloth lay disturbed. Salt traced faint spirals across its folds, and upon the mirror's face, the faintest imprint of a hand. "Condensation," she told herself. A trick of the eye. But the signs deepened. On the sixth night, alone in her workshop, Helena uncovered the mirror. Its surface gleamed, flawless beneath the lamp. She paused. For the first time, she let her gaze settle upon it fully. At first, her own reflection, faint, distant. Then, another. Behind her, a figure cloaked in linen, face lost in shadow. "Turn," a voice seemed to whisper. "See what watches beyond." Heart racing, she spun. The room stood empty. Yet the mirror now shimmered with frost, lines traced upon it, spirals and glyphs unseen by waking eyes. "You must not look," her notes read the next day. "The gaze is not returned. It is trapped. But curiosity binds as tightly as any curse." On the seventh night, drawn once more, Helena faced the mirror. "I must understand," she whispered. The reflection rippled. Stone corridors unfolded within its depths. Figures moved beyond, silent, bound, their eyes gleaming like wet obsidian. "Join us," they breathed. "Look deeper." Salt pooled upon the floor. Breath failed her lips. Her reflection faded, replaced by the shadowed figure alone. And from within the mirror, a hand pressed against the glass. Fingers long, thin, rimed with frost. She fled the workshop, voice lost in the cold air. At dawn, they found her seated before the mirror, eyes wide and sightless. Breath frozen upon her lips. The glass lay unbroken. Yet from beneath its surface, faint spirals continued to shift, and upon the frame a single glyph glowed faintly. Bound. Now the mirror rests beneath sealed cloth and salt. But those who pass near swear. Their reflection lingers a moment too long, and beneath folded letters, breath stirs faintly unseen. Some stones are meant to remain where they lie. Moved, they remember the hand that disturbed them, and they follow. Such was the fate of the stone of Thaman, a slab of black limestone carved with faded glyphs and lined with veins of pale green. It had once sealed the inner chamber of a desert shrine. There it had rested beneath shifting sands, cold, forgotten, until the builders came. In the spring of 1910, a wealthy merchant commissioned a new house upon the cliffs beyond Alexandria. "Build with the old stone," he insisted. "Let the past lend its strength to the present." The workers stripped ruins for material, blocks, columns, shattered reliefs, and among them, the slab. A single worker, Nikos Yanis, was charged with its transport. "It hums beneath the hand," he whispered. "This stone breathes." But orders pressed him on. The slab was lifted, bound in iron bands, brought to the merchant's courtyard. There it was set as a threshold, polished clean, etched lines gleaming faintly beneath fresh mortar. "A fine foundation," the architect declared. But the stone waited. The first sign came with the air. Within days the house grew cold. Breath clouded in the bright sunlit rooms. Salt crept along the edges of the new floors. "Old stone draws the earth's chill," the builders claimed. Yet the chill deepened. Footfalls upon the slab echoed strangely, thin, hollow, as though the space beneath had deepened unseen, and those who crossed it swore they heard faint whispers, words half-formed, drawn from beneath the stone. "It speaks beneath the tread," Yanis murmured. Nights grew restless. Shadows gathered near the threshold. Lamps flickered and failed. The scent of resin and ash hung upon the air. Still the work pressed on. "Fear not the past," the merchant insisted. "It has no claim upon us." But the stone claimed what it wished. On the seventh night, Yanis lingered late, drawn by a cold he could not name. Alone, beneath the thin light of an oil lamp, he stood upon the slab. Breath slowed. Shadows lengthened, and beneath his feet, a sound, soft, rhythmic, a pulse, as of a distant drum buried deep within the earth. "Leave this place," a voice seemed to whisper. But he did not. Instead, drawn beyond reason, he knelt, palm pressed flat to the cold stone. A tremor raced through him, bone deep. Visions coiled behind his eyes. Endless corridors of black stone, figures cloaked in linen, eyes gleaming in the dark. "Bind the vessel," they whispered. "Seal the breath beneath." He awoke at dawn, sprawled upon the slab, skin rimed with frost, veins darkened beneath pale flesh. "The stone dreams," he scrawled upon the walls. "I carry its breath now." That day he vanished. Footprints of salt led from the threshold and ended at the garden's edge. No trace was found. The house stood empty thereafter. The merchant fled, claiming the place was cursed. "The walls breathe wrong," he whispered. "The stone watches." To this day the house remains sealed, but those who pass near swear. At dusk, a faint chill seeps from beneath the door. Footsteps echo beyond the empty halls, and through forgotten corridors, soft footsteps echoed. Not all hands that take will keep. Some treasures remember their place and follow those who dare disturb them. Such was the fate of the amulet of Ketep, a small thing, no larger than a coin, carved of green feldspar, veined with gold, an image of a coiled serpent crowned with the sun disk, a talisman of protection or of binding. Taken from the tomb of the lesser priest Ketep, the black market dealer claimed. But he lied. The amulet had lain deep within a royal tomb, beneath stone and salt, sealed with 7 curses. Yet greed is deaf to warnings. The thief, a man named Yusuf al-Nadir, had crept where none should tread. By the light of a single lamp, he broke the seal. "For coin, for life," he whispered, fingers trembling as they lifted the amulet from dust-choked linen. It pulsed cold against his skin. A faint tremor passed through the air. "It breathes," he murmured. "It waits." But he fled the tomb, pouch heavy with stolen gold and the amulet bound in cloth. In Cairo's shadows, word spread. "A rare piece," Yusuf boasted. "A charm of great power." Buyers came, but one by one they recoiled. "It hums," they whispered. "It draws the eye too deep." Still, Yusuf would not relent. "Fear is for fools," he laughed. But the amulet waited. At night, the air in his chamber grew cold. Salt traced lines across the worn floorboards, and upon the cloth that bound the amulet, faint marks appeared, glyphs unseen by waking eyes. "Return," they whispered. Sleep fled him. Visions claimed the dark hours. Stone halls stretched beyond sight. Eyes, hundreds, gleamed from the shadows. "Give back what was bound," they chanted. By dawn, Yusuf awoke with frost upon his brow. "A fever," he muttered, "nothing more." But the signs deepened. The amulet's pulse grew stronger. Held near, it seemed to breathe, slow, deliberate. And when his gaze met its surface, he saw not the stone, but corridors winding through blackened earth. "I carry its shadow now," he wrote with shaking hand. Yet pride bound him. He arranged one final meeting. A buyer said to crave cursed things. "Tonight I sell it. Tonight it leaves my hand," Yusuf swore. But the amulet had chosen. That evening, beneath a moonless sky, he prepared the piece. Cloth wrapped tight, salt scattered across the threshold. Yet as the buyer arrived, a hush fell upon the room. Lamps dimmed. The air thickened with unseen breath. "We should not be here," the buyer whispered, eyes wide. Still, Yusuf unveiled the amulet. Its surface gleamed wet beneath the flickering light. And from the stone, a sound, low, soft, a single word, "Return." The buyer fled. Yusuf stood alone, breath shallow, gaze locked upon the amulet. "No," he whispered. "You are mine." But the stone answered. A pulse raced through the air. Salt spiraled upward in unseen currents. And as dawn neared, Yusuf's door stood open. Within, no sign of man or gold. Only the amulet remained, resting upon a drift of salt. Its glyphs now clear. Bound, watched, claimed. The authorities sealed the room. The amulet was crated, buried deep within the archives. But from its case a faint hum lingers still, and through unseen cracks, salt whispered faintly still. Some flames are better left unlit, for in their glow, shadows awaken. Such was the fate of the lamp of Sekhmet, recovered from a collapsed antechamber beneath the cliffs of Abydos, a vessel of blackened bronze, its shape elegant and strange. A feline form, head bowed, paws outstretched, held the shallow cup of the lamp. Glyphs traced its base, nearly worn smooth by the passing of ages. A simple oil lamp, the catalog read. Ritual object, uncertain purpose. Yet among those who worked the tomb, none would touch it. "The lamp feeds upon more than oil," an elder whispered. "It draws the breath of the living." But scholars hunger for knowledge. Dr. Alwyn Mercer, young, eager, relentless, claimed the lamp for study. "Superstition has no place beneath stone," he said. "Let us see how ancient light still burns." Within the base old resin clung, brittle, fragrant with forgotten oils. And as the sun fell beyond the cliffs, Dr. Mercer prepared the lamp. "A simple test," he assured his assistant. A fresh wick laid, a measure of clean oil poured with reverent care. The air in the chamber grew cool. Breath hung faintly in the lamplight. "It breathes strangely here," the assistant murmured. "Nerves," Mercer replied, though his hand trembled faintly. With a single spark, the wick caught. The flame rose, pale and thin, almost blue. A hush fell upon the stone. No crackle of burning oil, no flicker of shadow. The flame stood still, as though the lamp drew breath only from the unseen. "Remarkable," Mercer whispered. Yet the air thickened. Salt dusted the stone beneath the lamp. Threads of frost traced the metal's edge, and from the flame, a sound, soft, rhythmic. A pulse not of heat but of hunger. "Enough," Mercer said, reaching to snuff it. But the flame held fast. Wick untouched, oil untouched. The assistant fled, leaving the scholar alone. "I must understand," he muttered, eyes fixed upon the cold fire. Hours passed. The flame remained, and within its depths, shapes stirred. Corridors of black stone, eyes gleaming beyond the veil of firelight. "Feed the flame," a voice whispered. "Breathe upon it. Restore its path." Mercer leaned close, breath shallow. A chill swept through him, deeper than air, deeper than bone. He recoiled, skin rimed with frost. "It draws me in," he scrawled upon a scrap of parchment. "The lamp binds the breath. I must end this." Yet the flame would not die. Water hissed, steam rising in faint spirals. Salt thickened upon the stone. "No more," Mercer gasped. With trembling hands he lifted the lamp. Cold pulsed through his veins. "Return," the flame seemed to whisper. "Return the breath that was stolen." At dawn, the chamber stood silent. The lamp burned still. Dr. Mercer was gone. Only a single line remained upon the wall. "The breath is bound. The flame remembers." The lamp was sealed in a lead casket. Yet even now, beneath iron and stone, it burns. Flame unquenched. And through forgotten corridors, soft footsteps echoed. Not all tools of power remain silent. Some remember the hand that once held them, and hunger for such touch again. Such was the tale of the wand of Nefertu. It was found beneath the ruins of a forgotten temple, deep within the sands beyond Luxor. a slender rod of ebony, its surface inlaid with lines of gold. Symbols traced its length, eyes, serpents, spirals without end. At one end, the head of a jackal, mouth parted in silent command. A ritual wand, the excavators noted, likely used by priests in rites of passage. None would hold it barehanded. It whispers, one worker claimed. The wand calls the breath from the bone. But one man did not fear such tales. Alaric Venn, occultist, scholar, seeker of lost arts. Such power belongs not in crates, he said. It must be known. He acquired the wand through quiet means. A coin here, a favor there. And beneath the flicker of shaded lamps, he studied it. The symbols breathe, he wrote in his journal. The wand carries memory and will. At first all seemed well, but shadows grew within his study. Salt dusted the spines of ancient books. Breath clouded the air, though no window was ajar. It draws upon the air itself, he whispered. Yet he pressed on. I must see its purpose revealed. On the seventh night, beneath a moonless sky, he prepared the ritual. A circle drawn in ash and chalk. Candles placed at cardinal points. And at the center, the wand. Bind the breath, awaken the path, he intoned. The air grew cold, shadows lengthened beyond their flames, and the wand pulsed. A faint hum rose, low, steady, not of this world. It begins, Alaric whispered. He grasped the wand. Cold raced through his veins, fingers numbed, breath slowed. The jackal's head gleamed with wet light. Feed us, a voice whispered, dry as ancient dust. Return what was bound. Visions coiled behind his eyes. Endless corridors beneath blackened stone. Figures robed in linen, hands outstretched. Speak the words, they urged. Alaric obeyed. Words unknown poured from his lips, harsh, guttural, drawn from memory not his own. The flame of the candles guttered, and within the circle, shapes stirred. Shadows with eyes like coals, breath cold as the void. Too far, Alaric gasped. I go too far. But the wand held him fast, fingers fused to the cold wood. The breath is ours, the voices cried. You carry it now. At dawn the circle stood empty. The wand lay upon scorched stone, a single line traced in frost. The vessel remains, the path is open. Alaric was gone. The wand now rests beneath iron and salt. Yet from its case a faint hum lingers still, and beneath worn velvet the keys sang faintly once more. Not all adornments are meant for the living. Some were woven for rites, and carry whispers no silk can silence. Such was the fate of the girdle of Neferu, a piece of delicate beauty, woven of strands of fine gold and dyed linen, braided in intricate patterns. Small charms hung from its length, scarabs, eyes of lapis, tiny bells of tarnished bronze. A ceremonial belt, the auctioneer declared, recovered from a noble woman's tomb, purpose unknown. But few dared bid. It sings, one collector murmured. The bells ring in empty air. Still, Evelyn Harcourt, socialite, patron of the arts, was undeterred. Such tales amuse me, she laughed. It shall be the talk of the season. She won the girdle with ease. And so, one frost-edged evening, beneath chandeliers and velveted halls, she prepared to wear it. A conversation piece, she told her reflection. Her maid hesitated. It feels cold, she whispered, fastening the clasp. Evelyn smiled. The past is cold, my dear. Let us warm it with life. The bells chimed softly, a sound too light to carry far, yet beneath it, a deeper note. It breathes, the maid said faintly, but the guests soon arrived. Glasses sparkled. Laughter rose in gentle waves. Eveline descended, the girdle gleaming against her silk gown. "Exquisite," they murmured, "a relic brought to life." Yet as she moved, the air seemed to shift. Shadows lengthened along the polished floor, candles guttered in unseen drafts, and beneath the music, the bells sang softly, a rhythm not matched by her steps. "An odd trick of the ear," one guest remarked uneasily. Still, Eveline basked in their gaze. "I command the past tonight," she whispered. But the girdle remembered its purpose. As the hour deepened, her breath grew short. Fingers trembled. Skin cooled beneath the gold. "A chill," she laughed, though her voice wavered. "Too much champagne." But the bells rang on, a slow, steady cadence, and in the mirrored walls her reflection blurred. Figures moved beyond her own, shapes draped in linen, eyes rimmed with kohl. "Join the dance," they whispered. "We weave the breath into the cloth." Her heart raced. "Enough!" she gasped, reaching for the clasp. But the girdle held fast. The bells rang louder, salt blooming upon her gown. "Unbind it!" she cried, voice lost beneath the rising hum. Guests turned, faces pale, and before their eyes Eveline sank to her knees, breath shallow, skin rimed with frost. "The cloth binds," she whispered. "The dance calls me home." At dawn the girdle lay coiled upon the marble floor, its bells silent. Eveline was gone. No trace remained, save for a faint circle of salt where she had stood. The girdle now rests beneath layers of linen and lead, but in the stillness of forgotten vaults, bells chime softly where no hand stirs, and through unseen cracks, salt whispered faintly still. Not all guardians stand in temples. Some take smaller forms, carved with purpose, sealed with breath, and when moved, they remember. Such was the tale of the figurine of Tepuaru, a piece no taller than a man's hand, carved of black basalt, smooth and cold. A figure, slender, faceless, arms folded, head bowed. At its feet, faint glyphs nearly worn away, to stand watch between the worlds. It surfaced in a private sale, an object stripped from a noble's tomb during hurried excavations. A simple idol, the dealer claimed, a fine addition to any discerning collection. And so it passed to Arthur Greaves, a man of wealth and morbid curiosity. His home, a shrine to the ancient dead, walls lined with relics, jars, amulets, masks. "Let the past keep me company," he would say. The figurine arrived swaddled in linen, cool to the touch. "Curious weight for its size," Greaves remarked. "It demands presence." He placed it at the heart of his collection, beneath a glass dome within a mahogany case. A silent guest, he mused, but the figurine waited. That night, the air in the study grew cold. Breath clouded in the gaslight. Salt dusted the glass. "Dampness," Greaves muttered. Yet the chill remained. Footsteps echoed faintly in the empty halls. Books lay askew come morning. Shadows pooled beneath the display. And within the dome, the figurine seemed to shift, not in place, but in presence. "It watches," his housekeeper whispered. Greaves dismissed her. "It is only stone, but stone remembers." By the seventh night, sleep eluded him. Visions claimed the dark, corridors of basalt, figures lined in endless rows, arms folded, heads bowed. "Stand watch," they whispered. "Stand always." At dawn he found fresh salt upon the study floor. "Strange drafts," he wrote, though his hand shook. Still he remained. "I will master this piece," he vowed. He watched the figurine beneath flickering light, and from within the dome, a sound. Soft, a pulse like breath drawn deep within stone. "No more," Greaves whispered, heart racing. He reached to lift the dome, bare hands upon cold glass, but the air thickened. Salt bloomed in spirals beneath his feet. The figurine seemed to hum, a low vibration beneath the touch. "Return," a voice breathed, dry and deep. "Return to the watch." Fingers numb, breath failing, Greaves collapsed. His final entry read, "The stone calls, the breath binds. I go now." At dawn the house stood silent. The figurine remained beneath the glass, untouched. Yet those who pass near swear. A faint pulse lingers in the air, and through forgotten corridors soft footsteps echoed. Not all burdens hang heavy. Some rest upon the throat, light as breath, yet cold as the tomb. Such was the tale of the medallion of the Black Sun, a disk of jet, polished to a depthless sheen, etched upon its face, a sun of 12 curling rays, each ending in a serpent's head. A rare amulet, the dealer claimed, symbol of rebirth and dominion. No provenance, no known owner, yet drawn from the dust of an unopened tomb. It passed to Julian Crane, a young historian of rising renown. A relic of forgotten power, he mused, worn by a priest, perhaps, or a king. He wore it upon a simple chain. To inspire the mind, he told his peers. But the medallion waited. On the first night the air grew cold. Breath clouded in the lamplight. Salt traced faint spirals upon the study floor. Dampness of old stone, Julian wrote. Still he wore it. Yet beneath its weight his dreams darkened. Endless vaults of blackened stone. A sun eclipsed, its rays coiling like serpents across the sky. "Bind the breath," voices whispered. "Carry the shadow." Each morning he woke chilled, skin damp, heart racing. Too much study, he told himself. But the signs deepened. The chain grew colder. Skin beneath the medallion paled, rimed with frost. Veins traced beneath the flesh in dark spirals. "It marks me," Julian scrawled in his journal. Still he refused to remove it. "The past must be understood," he insisted, "even if it marks the flesh." By the 7th night, breath failed him. Speech slowed, eyes dimmed, and in the mirror no reflection met his gaze. Only the medallion gleamed, floating in void. "It binds me," he whispered. "I am the vessel now." On the final dawn, his study stood silent. Books lay open, their pages rimed with salt. The medallion rested upon the desk, chain coiled like a serpent. Julian was gone. Only a single line remained, traced in frost upon the glass. "The breath is bound, the shadow walks." Now the medallion lies sealed in lead and salt. But those who near it swear. A faint pulse stirs the air, and beneath folded letters breath stirs faintly unseen. Not all vows should be sealed. Some circles, once closed, can never be undone. Such was the tale of the Ring of Sahur, a simple band, gold worn soft by time, inscribed within, glyphs of binding coiled in a circle with no beginning, no end. A token of union, the seller claimed, recovered from a tomb beneath the sands. But those who touched it spoke of chill. "It hums," one whispered. "It binds the breath of the wearer." Still, Edward Hale, a young man of means and restless heart, was not swayed. "A symbol of eternity," he laughed. "Perfect for a wedding band." And so, days before the ceremony, he slipped the ring upon his finger. "A gesture of devotion," he told his beloved. "We are bound already." But the ring waited. That night, cold seeped into the manor. Frost traced the window panes, though no winter wind stirred. Salt gathered upon the polished floor. "Odd weather," Edward remarked, though unease pricked at his thoughts. Still he wore the ring. Each morning the band grew colder. Flesh beneath paled, veins darkening in faint spirals. A trick of nerves, he insisted. Yet in the mirror his reflection wavered, eyes dulled, breath hung too long upon the glass. It binds, a voice seemed to whisper at the edge of hearing. It remembers. Dreams grew dark. Corridors wound through endless stone. Figures robed in linen, eyes fixed upon his hand. Return, they whispered. The bond is not yours. On the eve of the wedding, Edward grew pale. Words failed him. The ring. It sings beneath my skin, he scrawled in his journal. Yet pride bound him still. I will wear it, he vowed. It shall not master me. But the ring had other designs. At the altar, beneath soft candlelight, Edward's breath grew faint, skin cold as marble, eyes wide, gaze fixed beyond sight. The priest faltered, guests whispered, and beneath the silence, a sound, a low hum rising from the ring. Salt dusted the marble beneath his feet. I cannot, he gasped, voice fading. The bond holds. With trembling fingers he reached to remove it, but the ring held fast. Flesh blackened, veins coiled like serpents. Return the breath, the voices whispered. Restore the bond. Edward collapsed. Breath gone, hand clenched tight upon the unbroken band. In the hush that followed, no one spoke. The ring was removed with force, flesh torn beneath its grasp, sealed in salt and iron. Yet from its case a faint hum lingers still, and through unseen cracks salt whispered faintly still. Not all marks should be impressed upon the living. Some seals are meant to bind what must not speak. Such was the fate of the seal of Ankh-Reket, a stamp of black stone, polished, cold. Its face bore a single glyph, a serpent coiled through an open eye. A ceremonial seal, the dealer claimed, used in rites of passage, or of binding. No provenance, no record of its first use, but within certain circles it was whispered, this mark seals more than words. Still, Dr. Lionel Gresham, a scholar of ancient texts, acquired it with eager hands. A unique tool, he mused. I shall use it to mark my translations, a signature of sorts. And so the seal waited. In his quiet study beneath lamps of green glass, he prepared fresh parchment. A simple test, he whispered. Red wax melted beneath steady flame. The seal pressed firm into the soft pool, and as it lifted, the serpent gleamed. Exquisite, he smiled. But the air shifted. Cold spiraled through the room. Breath clouded upon the glass. Salt dusted the desk's edge. Drafts, he muttered. Yet the chill deepened. Each new seal impressed upon the page left the glyph, darker, edges sharp as blade, and beneath the wax, faint cracks appeared in the parchment. Strange reaction, he noted, but curiosity drove him on. Perhaps the stone holds a charge, he theorized. Night after night he stamped page after page, but shadows lengthened across the study walls. Books grew cold to the touch, and within the mirror, eyes gleamed behind his own. The seal binds the breath, a voice whispered. You mark yourself now. Dreams followed. Vast halls of blackened stone, figures bound in chains of salt and bone. Speak the words, they urged. Mark the path anew. Each dawn, Lionel awoke colder, skin rimed with frost, veins darkened beneath pale flesh. I must stop, he wrote. The seal marks more than parchment. But the compulsion remained. At the seventh sealing, his breath failed. Eyes dimmed. Hands moved without command. Wax pooled beneath unseen fingers, and the seal pressed again, deeper, slower. Bind the breath, restore the bond, the voices sang. In the final hour, the study stood silent. A single parchment lay upon the desk. Upon it, the serpent's mark. No words remained. Dr. Gresham was gone. Only a thin line traced in frost upon the glass. The mark is bound. The breath is sealed. The seal now rests beneath iron and salt. But beneath its case, the stone hums faintly still, and in the hollow dark, the breath of stone grew stronger. Some ornaments do not adorn. They claim. They draw the breath of the wearer into a circle unbroken. Such was the fate of the necklace of the hollow eye, a piece of great beauty and of greater hunger. Gold filigree twined with strands of dark hair, beads of lapis and obsidian alternating like steps into shadow. At its center, a single pendant, an open eye, its pupil a disk of polished jet. A noblewoman's adornment, the jeweler claimed, recovered from a burial chamber near Saqqara. Yet within the shop, no assistant dared touch it. "It watches," they whispered. Still, Marianne Clark, bright-eyed, eager, stepped forward. "For the gala," she smiled, "it will be perfect." The jeweler hesitated. "Perhaps another piece?" But her gaze remained fixed. "This one," she said, "this calls to me." And so it was hers. That evening, beneath the pale glow of gaslight, she prepared for the ball. "A token of ancient grace," she whispered, fingers trailing the chain. The metal was cold, colder than any gold should be, but beauty blinds. She clasped it about her throat. The pendant settled upon her breast, light as breath, yet heavy with unseen weight. At first, all seemed well. Within the mirrored halls of the estate, Marianne moved with effortless grace. "Exquisite," they murmured. "Such a piece. From where?" "The past," she laughed, though her voice wavered. Yet beneath the music, the eye gleamed. Guests shivered in her wake. "A chill follows her," they whispered. And as the hours passed, shadows deepened upon the walls. Candles guttered. Breath clouded in the warm air. "Too close," one guest murmured, stepping away. But Marianne felt no cold. "It warms me," she whispered. "It breathes with me." Dreams claimed her swiftly that night. Endless corridors of polished stone, figures robed in linen, heads bowed before a great eye of jet. "Bind the breath," they sang. "Carry the gaze." She woke, chilled, fingers numb upon the chain. "I must remove it," she gasped. But the clasp held fast. Skin beneath the chain paled. Veins coiled in dark spirals. "It watches," she wrote in trembling script. "The eye does not close." Still, pride bound her. "I will wear it once more," she vowed. "One night only." At the next gathering, the eye gleamed brighter still. Guests parted before her, candles dimmed in her path. "She carries a shadow," they whispered. And in the mirrored ballroom her reflection blurred. Figures moved beyond the glass. "Return," they whispered. "Complete the circle." At midnight, beneath the gaze of the hollow eye, Marianne faltered. Breath failed. Eyes dimmed. "The gaze binds me," she gasped. "I see the endless halls." She collapsed. The pendant gleamed, warm now, pulsing faintly. Upon her skin, spirals traced in frost. The necklace was removed with force, sealed in salt and iron. But from its case the eye gleams still, watching, waiting. And beneath the nave a forgotten light flickered alone. Some objects carry no name, no record, no whispered lineage of theft and curse. They simply appear, drawn from the breath of stone and the hunger of unseen things. Such was the fate of the unmarked box. It came with no shipment, no registry, no sender. One gray morning, beneath a shroud of drifting mist, the crate was found upon the loading dock of the museum. Wood weathered, iron straps tarnished. "A misdelivery," the clerk suggested. Yet no manifest matched. No courier claimed its presence. Still, protocol prevailed. "Bring it to archives," the curator ordered. And so it waited, deep beneath stone, within the airless vaults. A single box, silent, sealed. Weeks passed. Then the box began to breathe. Not in motion, but in presence. Salt dusted the floor around it. Frost traced the iron bands. "Condensation," the archivist muttered. But the air chilled. Breath clouded beneath the electric lamps, and upon the crate's surface, faint marks appeared. Not scratches, not wear. Glyphs, curling spirals, eyes half-formed. "It marks itself," a technician whispered. Yet no one dared open it. Until one night, alone, beneath the vault's dim light, a junior archivist remained, drawn not by duty, but by the pulse that rose from the crate. "Just a look," she told herself. Gloved hands pried at the sealed lid. Iron groaned beneath the strain, and as the crate opened, breath fled the room. Air thickened, salt bloomed across the stone. Within, a smaller box, black as void. Upon it, no lock, no seam, but the pulse grew stronger. "One more layer," she whispered, trembling. Fingers brushed its surface. Cold raced through her veins. Visions flooded her mind. Endless halls beneath forgotten earth. Figures waiting in the dark. "You see now," they whispered. "The vessel opens." She recoiled, but her fingers remained bound to the box. Salt spiraled upward in unseen currents, and from the heart of the stone, a breath long held was released. "We awaken," the voices sang. At dawn, the vault stood silent. The crate, empty. The archivist, gone. Only a faint circle of salt remained. The black box was never found. Yet those who walk the vault's lower halls speak of chill, of breath stolen mid-step, and sometimes soft footsteps echo in the dark where no one walks, and through unseen cracks, salt whispered faintly still,